Back to First Love Yourself, where life, love, and Christ combine. If you're new here, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and give me a thumbs up. And today's video, we are going to be talking about how to know if it's something that you want. And what made me think about that is earlier today, I was watching a sermon and it started to say how to differentiate between something that you want and something that God wants for you, or He knows that you actually need. And so as I started to ponder on my thoughts, thinking about different things, I started to think, okay, how can we really tell if it's God or if it's us? And the pastor in the sermon today said something that I think is really helpful. He said that you could tell that it's you when it's something that is going to make you great, when it's something that is going to magnify you, when it's something that's pleasing to you, when it's something that only benefits you. When it's God, it will benefit the kingdom. It will glorify His name. It will make His name great. It won't just be about you. And earlier today, as I was thinking about different things in my life, I was thinking about how I just want to be able to accomplish all of these things. And I still struggle to this day with allowing the right people to be a part of my life. And sometimes God has to push me out of the way. Listen, I'm not going to invite people just so that you could do this alone. I'm inviting people so that you don't have to carry the heavy load by yourself. You can actually, the people that I'm introducing into your life are there to help you for a season or forever. And I need you to be willing to be open to allow those people to help you in the right way. And, sometimes I get a little stubborn and I'll be like, but I can handle this. I got this. I'm INDEP. No, let me stop. But seriously, sometimes we just feel like we got to handle everything on our own. And we got to do this by ourselves. People ask you, oh, you need help with this? And you think you're being kind by saying, oh, no, I got it. And you're wearing yourself out. You look drained, you tired, you can't get no sleep. I mean, you tired and exhausted and can't sleep. You don't have no real rest. You are getting 8 hours of sleep or however long you sleep, and you still feel exhausted because you feel like you got to carry on this load of life by yourself. And God never intended for us to do that. Sometimes we have to really get out of our own way. We have to really think, okay, if God is allowing this person to be a part of my life, then they're there for a reason. And some people could say a reason, a season, or whatever else. But listen, I like to say a reason in any circumstance because I feel like regardless of what happens with any individual, as a friendship, as whatever is happening, it will always benefit you because you'll learn a lesson from it regardless. It will teach you something new about yourself. It will teach you something new about life. It will allow you to gain knowledge on some aspect of life that you didn't have before. And that's something that is so amazing. I don't know about you, but every time I learn something new, I feel like I'm advancing to another level. Every time whether it does or doesn't work out with someone, or I, get a new friend in my life who is amazing, and I'm like, oh wow, it's cool to have this new circle, or it's cool to be around these people, or whatever the thing is in life. And every time there's new people introduced that God allows to be a part of my life, they teach me something about myself. They teach me areas, sorry, they teach me areas of my life where I'm being weak, areas where I'm strong. Sometimes we like to say, oh yeah, I'm so strong, I got this. And we don't realize that meekness is strength. We don't realize that the areas that we think are weak allow us to be the person God created us to be. God didn't say go be a clone of Susie. He said be you. Whatever your name is, fill in the blank right there. That's what God intended for you to be, the person that He created you to be, not to be a copy paste of somebody else. Always remember that your uniqueness is in your story, it's in all of the things that make you who you are. And know that you can't put new wine into old wineskins. You can't be the old version of you and serve God and mammon at the same time. You have to choose one or the other. And sometimes I like to feel like, okay, well, maybe I could stay in both. Maybe I could do a little bit of this and that. Maybe I could be holy and, I don't want to say borderline, but just in the world. I mean, of the world. But you can't be of the world and godly at the same time, because the criteria for a Christian, the way that you want to represent yourself, the type of person that you want to be, the type of women that you influence, impact, the type of impact you're trying to make on this world, or the change that you want to see in this world, you have to be that change. I can't say, oh yeah, do all of these Christian things and then be a hypocrite. I can't just be pretending like I'm about that God life and not really be about it and just talk about it in a video. I have to live like it. And Tony Gaskin said something in one of his old videos that really helped me when I'm struggling, when I'm in a moment in my life where I'm like, okay, well, maybe, it just sometimes it gets a little, I don't want to say lonely because I spend a lot of time with God, but sometimes it feels like I'm alone, although I'm all in one, it just feels like no one else understands. Like, I don't have anybody that's my age. I don't want to say I don't have anybody. There are people that I've met, but I don't have a group with them. Like, I don't just reach out to them because I don't like to burden other people, which God has been getting on me about. He's like, I introduced those people in your life to help you, not so that you could sit there and be like, oh, I got to do it by myself. Like, your strength is not in handling something that's not meant for you to carry by yourself alone. That is not strength, that's weakness. You're allowing the adversary to come in and weaken you because you're not leaning on the strength that God provided. God provided that strength because he knew you were a struggle. He knew you would need other people. He knew that other people were going to bring blessings into your life. He knew that that was going to be the person that you talk to, that you connect with, the person that pushes you. He knew that those things were going to be necessary to make you into the person he created you to be. But you are blocking your own blessings by acting like you have to do it all alone, and you don't. So whenever I get into a moment or a mood where I'm like, oh man, I got to do this by myself and nobody understands, I don't have nobody to call, whatever else, then I start to sometimes I think about, okay, maybe I can go back to being the old person that I used to be. Because sometimes it's difficult always doing the right thing, intentionally. I never would intentionally go out of my way to make a bad decision. And as I'm living life, sometimes it's like, okay, well, I'm the only one here. Like, all the other people my age are doing whatever they want and they seem fine. And then, like, I might do one thing that I used to do or something, and I'll be like, it's no fulfillment here. It feels so empty. It feels like you could tell God's hand isn't in it. You could tell it's just like a little bit of happiness that you get, but it's not something that completely fulfills you. You don't get that joy that only God can give you. You don't have that peace because you got to be looking around like, maybe, like you feel so unsure and confused. Not like God is not giving you a blueprint, because God's not going to just give you a blueprint for what he's going to do in your life. He's going to give you direction and wants you to take steps so that he can help you the rest of the way, And so whenever I'm struggling, I'm thinking about going back to the old version of me, or I'm thinking about doing the things that I used to do. I think about what Tony Gaskin said in one of his videos when he was like, he lives his life as if Christ was sitting right beside him. Or, not for anybody else, but like, okay, if I do this, is God going to be okay with this? If I'm doing this, like, I'm living right for God. I'm not doing it for anybody else. It's not for the people. It's not for people around me. It's not because I want a pat on the back or I want somebody to say that I'm doing a good job. And every day, that's how I try to live my life. I try to live my life like, okay, I'm doing this for God, because people will always change their mind. But if I'm doing something that's pleasing to God, if I'm doing this as if God God is always there with us anyways, because he's omnipresent, right? But, and also, because he's omnipresent, sometimes we don't think about him always being there. And so in my mind, I keep in the forefront of my mind, God is with me always. So when I'm getting ready to make that bad decision, when I'm about to go back into the old version of me, when I'm thinking maybe it'll be easier if I just, did what I used to do, if I go back to being the old version of me, if I would just, willingly do all of the things that I know are wrong, is it going to be easier? Is it going to be, it just seems like sometimes it's so much easier because you don't have the spiritual warfare, because, some of the decisions that you make give you spiritual warfare, because you made a choice to be with people that God didn't give you the okay with. You made the choice to do this thing or go work at this job because it was more money, not because God approved it. And so now you're in spiritual warfare. Now you are going through all of this stuff, the HE double hockey sticks, because you chose to do what God didn't present you with, what he didn't have grace for you, what he didn't grace you for. And a lot of the times when I think about my life, the things that are hectic, the things that bring like this storm in my life, or the things that bring chaos, are the things that my past choices. They're not any of the things that God approved. And so whenever I get to make, or I start to make a decision, I usually think, okay, is this something that's going to make me regret it in the future? Is it something that God is going to be okay with? Am I doing the right thing? And when I make a mistake, I try not to harp on the mistake. I try not to think, oh, well, now I got to feel guilty forever. Now God is never going to see me the same way. Now God can't use me. And after I made my mistake the other day, I had a moment with God, and I was like sitting there, and I was just like, God, I mean, now that I'm tainted, like, how are you going to be able to use me? And then I had to think about all the old videos that I did about guilt. I had to think about all the times that God told me that he could use me regardless. He will use everything. Sometimes we forget that he can do that, and that he's a God full of grace and mercy, especially when you come to him and repent, especially when you acknowledge your wrongs, especially when you be real. Like, don't just say, oh yeah, God, this, and this. No, you got to say, God, I'm struggling with this, because I want this. Not because it's just something that just happened out of nowhere. I fell into sin or whatever other people say. You got to be real with God so that he can know the weakest parts of you and help you in that area. You cannot do it alone. Stop feeling like you have to be so independent that you can't be interdependent with other people. Stop feeling like you got to carry the weight and the load of the entire world on your shoulders. It's not for you to carry. That burden is too heavy for you to carry alone. That is why God introduced people into your life. That's why he allows you to have family members, friends. That's why he allowed you to have a partner. That's why he allowed you to have that boyfriend, that girlfriend, that work colleague, whoever it is. He allowed those people to be a part of your life to help guide you, to help you carry that burden, so you don't have secrets, so that you don't have all of these things on your shoulders holding you back. And when I say secrets, I always have to break everything down, because some people take it and run with it, and then they get bad advice and they go and live their life like that. Know that your direction comes from God, not from me. I'm just telling my story, and I'm hoping that it will help impact your life. It'll help inspire you. It'll help motivate you, and you'll be able to learn from my mistakes or my missteps or the choices that I've made in my life. It's not because I'm perfect. It's not because I never make a wrong decision in my life. It's because I'm willing to be used however God sees fit. No matter what I look like, no matter how crazy I look for, being stuck on some guy that I knew for like a little bit of time, no matter how insane it is that I stayed in a relationship too long, I don't care what I look like, as long as I'm helping some other woman or man know their value. If they can see that they're worth more than that, if they know that they're so much more than just being a backup plan or whatever else people say nowadays, like, my goal, my purpose is to make sure that people know their value, that people know how much God values them. It's not about anybody else. It's about you believing it for yourself. It's about you knowing your worth. Know that you deserve God's best and nothing less. Don't ever settle for anything less than God's best. I'm so serious. When I see people make these decisions to try to be with certain people in their life, I'm like, I don't tell people, I don't judge them. I've been there. I know how it feels. I also know that they deserve better. If you're not being treated with respect, if you're not being honored or loved the right way, know that you deserve more than that. Don't ever settle for anything less than God's best for you. And I know people are saying, well, I want the best of the best. God's best is the best of the best. I promise you that. Everything that he has for you is top tier. Like, you thought a 5-star restaurant was good, but it ain't nothing compared to God. You know what I'm saying? And you can imagine in your mind how you think the person is going to be, how you think the job is going to be, until you get a job that's from God. And I don't mean the ones where he's getting you to be an example for other people and you hate the job, or you don't like it and you're like, well, I want to work this place. Before you work that place, you got to learn how to work this. You got to learn how to work in this environment, because God wants to see you be faithful in the most uncomfortable situations and in a place that he needs you to be, so that you can help the people, because that's what it's all about. It's not about you. Sometimes I have to remind myself that when I start to feel like I'm starting to get selfish, I have to remember that it's not just a me decision or a me choice. It is a choice that I'm making to be an example for generations to come. It's an example that I'm making for my daughter, for my younger nieces or nephews beginning into existence, or whoever else. It is literally an example for younger women. Sometimes even older women will come up to me and say, oh my gosh, I really love that you do this, this, and this. And I want to remind people I'm not anybody's idol. Like, don't be like me, just be the best version of you. Seriously. Like, I'm glad that I can be used as an example, and God can use me so that people can see what God can do in other people's lives, and in my life, in your life. I also want you to know, do not idolize me at all, because I want to continue to be used by God, and He can only use me if you are not idolizing me. So if I'm helping you, idolize God. Like, just take all of your cares, your concerns to Him, see how God is working in my life, and then ask for what it is that you want, and listen for God's response. Don't just say, I want this, so I'm going to get this. Say, God, I would like this. And it's up to God to give it to you if it's going to benefit your life and benefit the kingdom. He's not going to give you $1 million if you're going to destroy your whole life, your whole career, your whole family over $1 million. He's only going to give you something that's going to be a blessing, not a curse. So always remember that. Learn to listen for His no, because His no is redirection for the right path. And always be true to who you are. Just believe in yourself. And when people are introduced into your life, allow them to help you. You do not have to do it alone. Those days are over. The days where we said, oh yeah, I'm going to cook, I'm going to clean, I'm going to do all of these things. I'm going to do the traditional and modern roles. I'm going to wake up, I'm going to feed the kids, I'm going to work, I'm going to do, and I'm not saying there's not people that can't do it. But if God is introducing people into your life to help you, like if you could get a housekeeper and life affords that to you, don't act like you have to do it alone, because you're not proving anything to anybody. You don't have nothing to prove. You are exactly who God created you to be. Take the help. You don't have to pretend to be Superwoman. Take the cape off. It's time for you to be a human being. You have real emotions. You have real responsibilities. You have real duties. You have real things that you want for your life. And God is allowing people to help you so that you'll be able to accomplish those things. So guard your heart, take down the walls so that people can actually come into your life and help you the way that God intended. So give me a thumbs up if you like this video, and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Have an amazing Monday. A miraculous Monday. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Good night.